Hi everyone, it's time for another round of games that I've played over the past couple of months. As usual, it'll be a mix of different games I played both on and off stream that I can remember. I've just been streaming regularly for a while now, so I've been trying all kinds of titles. I'll do my best to include what I can remember though, so yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. First is Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. I loved the second and third games as a kid, so I wanted to see what the first game was like. I haven't finished it yet, but I ended up marathoning the game for a couple of hours because it was pretty fun. So this game's about Sly Cooper, the last member of a clan of thieves who steal from criminals. On the night that he was supposed to inherit a book that contained his family's secrets as a kid, a group of villains murdered his father and stole the pages from it. So then he was dumped in an orphanage. From there, he met his two best friends, Bentley and Murray, and he basically formed a crew with them in order to avenge his father and retrieve the pages from his family's book. The game plays like a standard 3D platformer from its time, so you have to platform, fight enemies, and collect things like coins. I've always loved platformers, especially the ones from the PS2 era, so it was incredibly nostalgic to play through this, even though it was my first time playing the original Sly Cooper game. There's just something really fun about playing through an old linear game with different areas and levels to go through, except when it gets difficult. Yeah, this game suffers from old school difficulty because of the checkpoints that are far away, and boss battles that force you to start over if you die in the middle of it. Modern games have spoiled me, so it was pretty crazy having to replay sections of the game, but it's easily solved if you're playing using save states in an emulator, or using the rewind feature in the PS5 version of the Sly Cooper collection. I do think that older games like this feel way more fun with those features, since they're almost like a quality of life option, especially when you don't want to waste time because of the design choices of either the levels or bosses. But other than that, I thought the game's great. It's both challenging and fun, and they even had little mini-games to change up the usual platforming mechanics. It's charming and funny in a way that reminds me of old cartoons, which made it feel quite nostalgic. I also felt that same nostalgia when I was listening to Sly, Bentley, and Murray bantering, just because they were iconic to me growing up. I recommend the first Sly Cooper game if you like platformers and you don't mind how challenging they can get. The second game is Resident Evil 5. I never really got into this game since I was always a fan of Resident Evil 1 to 3 for many years, until I played 4, and then I became a fan of Resident Evil 1 to 4. When it came to RE5, well, I remember seeing silly clips of it when I was a teen. Clips of Chris Redfield punching a boulder, and I thought, what is this? I'm never gonna play it. But then my partner mentioned that it's actually a great co-op game, so I ended up playing it this year and I feel enlightened. It ended up being one of the best co-op experiences I've ever had. So Resident Evil 5 is about, I wasn't paying attention to the story, to be honest. I just know that Chris went to a country in Africa to find out why the people are turning into zombies. He partners up with a woman named Sheva, and it doesn't take long before infected locals start attacking them. The story is so silly that it ended up being incredibly entertaining, at least until QuickTime events would suddenly pop up. It felt like I was going to break my controller at times, and replaying them was a bit frustrating. But yeah, RE5 reminded me a lot of RE4, except it's set in Africa, so you'll be going through linear areas while shooting and punching your way through enemies. I'd say that the game threw way more enemies at you than RE4 though, just because it felt like an experience that's designed for co-op. So I imagine that certain parts of the game, like the boss battles, would be harder if you were playing solo. Thankfully, the game gives you plenty of resources and money to buy whatever item you need. I was actually glad that I tried the game after ignoring it for so many years. It shines so much if you play it with someone else because of all the cool and silly sequences. Like, it's just so much fun to play. I ended up craving a similar experience so much that I forced my partner to play RE6 with me. We've both played a little bit of it in the past, but I thought that playing it with him would make it more fun. But nope, We ended up dropping it since it felt like it was trying too hard to be serious and edgy, and the gameplay just wasn't as fun. Oh, and fun fact, but I played RE5 on a PS3 emulator, because the Steam version was just completely broken for me. It kept crashing on my PC even after I tried like every fix possible, so my partner and I ended up just emulating the whole thing. It's crazy how it ended up being a near perfect experience, unlike the PC port. But yeah, I recommend Resident Evil 5 if you want to play a co-op game that still feels really fun to play to this day. It has an exciting campaign that takes over 12 hours to complete, and I'm pretty sure that the game's available on every platform. The next game is Rolling Hills. Make sushi, make friends. I was actually interested in this game the first time it appeared in Game Pass, but it ended up being kinda boring after over an hour of playtime. So Rolling Hills is about a sushi robot whose dream is to become a world-renowned sushi chef to make his creators proud. He ends up moving to Rolling Hills to take over a local sushi shop to do that. If you've played food time management games like Diner Dash, this game's exactly like that, though you're more of a waiter than a chef, since the sushi is automatically prepared on the conveyor belt. You just have to interact with it to restock, and then serve it to your customers in your shop. The goal is to level up and gain more money to upgrade your shop and improve your food. I was hoping that the game would let you prepare food as well, but all you can do is buy ingredients to upgrade the quality of your sushi. The gameplay loop just got a bit too boring and repetitive for me, especially since the customers walk pretty slow. It's not like the games it's inspired by, where customers quickly drop by and then leave. It doesn't help that the game's town was disappointing to explore as well. It feels like a very limited version of an Animal Crossing town. You can talk to the people in Rolling Hills, but they're not interesting enough to build relationships with. It also feels like certain stores are too far away from the shop, so it was a hassle rolling really slowly on a set path just to go visit them. Because of this, I can't recommend Rolling Hills. It's out on Steam and Xbox, but if you really want to try it out, then you should download the Game Pass version. The fourth game I played is Stuffed. This one felt like it took the idea of, hey, what if your stuffed toy actually defended you every time you went to bed as a kid, and turned it into a whole video game, but like a Call of Duty Zombies version of it. Yeah, Stuffed has you playing as a teddy bear defending the bedroom door of the kid who owns them, by fighting waves of her nightmares each night. These nightmares include things like garden gnomes and ducks with teeth. To be fair though, I think garden gnomes are creepy. New enemy types pop up as the game gets harder with every wave, so preparing for that is a huge part of the game. With every enemy you defeat, you'll earn points that unlock new areas and cool weapons to use. You can also get special abilities with the XP, with buffs like self-revive or infinite sprint. So yeah, that's basically what the game's like. It's procedurally generated though, and certain things like the buffs you can buy are random, so it gets pretty challenging. Like, some of my runs lasted longer than the others, just because I got lucky with my abilities and power-ups. Others ended miserably because I got swarmed by a ton of enemies. My last one on stream actually ended because of a bug. It started when I got an ability that turned enemies into allies. It's supposed to wear off after a while, but for some reason, the enemy sock puppets ended up getting stuck like that forever, after I died and revived myself. I couldn't kill them either, so I was stuck in the same wave until I closed the game. I didn't encounter any major bugs apart from that throughout my almost 3-hour playthrough though, so I'm hoping it was just a rare one. But yeah, I played Stuffed solo, but what's cool about the game is that it has online co-op that features up to 4 players. I don't know if the amount of players in the game affects the difficulty level, but it did feel like the game would have been easier for me if there was at least one other person defending. It also made customization for the teddy bear seem way cooler since, you know, you would be able to see what outfits other people are wearing. So yeah, I recommend Stuffed if you're into horde shooters. If you want to try it out, Stuffed is currently on Steam. Next is Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit. I'm not a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, but the game did interest me at the time, especially since I've always found old animatronics really creepy. But then the series kept going, and I just lost interest. Until now. Into the Pit caught my attention because it looked different. It wasn't a first-person FNAF game, and it didn't have any CCTV cameras, for the most part. It was a pixelated horror game with incredibly detailed art and animation that made the game feel even more terrifying. Now, Into the Pit is about Oswald, a boy who wishes that his town and life weren't so boring. One day, he ends up discovering and diving into an abandoned ball pit in a local pizzeria. This somehow makes him travel back in time to the 80s, back when the place was at its peak. But it doesn't take long until he finds out about a dark secret about the pizzeria. And yes, it involves creepy animatronics. The game consists of you going back and forth in time throughout 5 in-game days, all while solving puzzles and hiding from the pizzeria's infamous animatronics. A lot of the tension comes from hoping that you don't get caught by them, especially since they often involve jump scares. But as impressive as the art and animation was, it got old when the game would try to scare me towards the last quarter of my playthrough. But maybe it's because I just consume a lot of horror games, so it made me a bit more immune. It also felt like the game was still aimed at kids, even with disturbing content like stuffing children in the animatronics. Like, some parts of the story didn't make sense, and they never went too far by displaying anything graphic or too psychologically disturbing. But thankfully, the game is really short, so I finished it on stream after close to 5 hours. It has a lot of replayability though, with different endings and Easter eggs, which I think fans of the series would absolutely enjoy. But personally, I ended up just watching them on YouTube after my playthrough, since I was satisfied with my experience. I still recommend the game though, since it was pretty fun at times. Into the Pit is out on every platform. The last game is the Bathhouse Restored Edition. I was really excited to play this one because I'm a huge fan of Chilla's art games. They make awesome horror games that get better and better with each release. The Bathhouse is their latest example of this, and I'd say that it's their highest quality game so far. So the Bathhouse is about a young woman who gets a job opportunity to work at a countryside bathhouse and live in an apartment that's owned by the same person. Since she's tired of her city life, she decides to go for it. It doesn't take long before she notices that something about the bathhouse is off, or well, until you, the player, does, since other characters in the game mention it quite a bit, but the main character is just like, oh cool, every time something paranormal happens. The gameplay feels kinda like a time management life sim, but with a horror twist. You'll be talking and attending to the customers in the game, adjusting the water's temperature in the boiler room, and cleaning the place after everything's done. There was something oddly relaxing about doing all that, if you remove the fact that you're getting haunted, and dealing with bizarre customers. The story was really interesting too, but I bet that if you're familiar with the Chilla's art games, then you've probably heard of the original game. Yeah, this is a remake. The original had a game-breaking bug, so the devs decided to pull it out of the store because they couldn't fix it. But what's awesome is they went above and beyond by redoing the entire game, and even rewriting parts of the story. It paid off because the Bathhouse was a huge step up from their previous titles, in terms of visuals, events, and playtime. It took me about 4 hours to play through this one, which is unusual since other Chilla's art games take about 2 hours or less to complete. It ended up being a super satisfying experience too, so I was really happy about that. I still love their previous games though, like the Karaoke, Parasocial, and the Closing Shift, but the Bathhouse was just so good that it became one of my favorite titles from the devs. I know I've said in the past that I look forward to their games since they keep getting better and better, but I'd say that this was a huge step up from their previous games. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you want to play a cool, indie horror game. It's out on Steam. Let me know what you thought about the video, and like and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. There's still so much stuff I want to play for reviews, games I played videos, and playthroughs. Actually, I just need the time to edit the playthroughs. But yeah, I hope you guys look forward to it all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.